never burnt in the 225 years that it has been here. So it was really unfortunate that a spark must have come out of one of the trees and blown. You see, the wind was westerly. Normally it's a southeaster that the fires are in, and that blows the sparks that way. And I saw the footage of a spark landing in the thatch, and it started burning just where the brake lever goes in over there. And honestly, there's a hose pipe down there and a tap. If somebody had had the foresight, I wasn't here, I was down in the South Peninsula. If somebody had the foresight to wet the thatch, who knows, we could have saved the mill. But there's a lot of what ifs, and there's no point in it. We are where we are. All the woodwork, and some of the woodwork in the mill, quite a lot of the woodwork was original. And the timbers, the beams inside the mill were actually from old wrecked sailing ships. So those timbers are like 300-400 years old.
Oh, wow.
The main vertical shaft was actually an old ship's mast. So that's gone. Yeah, all the timber, obviously. The only thing we could save was the metalwork. And a lot of the metalwork is from 1796, so it's blacksmith's work. So it's very important. So on Monday, my first job, not that I slept very much on Sunday night, was to come here and take all the metal that I could find and put it into storage before the scrap merchants come and take it away, because that's invaluable. You know, it's something we got left, but it's still very valuable stuff. You know, hopefully it'll be part of the reconstruction of the mill, so we've got some of the old fabric of the mill back in the mill again. But the timber's all gone, everything. The last time the millwrights came was about 5 years after 1995 and sorted out a few problems. We needed them back after that because the vertical shaft had a wobble on it, but it was too expensive for us. So we asked Andy Self, who's an apple farmer from the Elgin district, and he was very keen on old machines, and he has reconstructed an old water mill in Bottrefie. And between us we managed to get 5 jobs done and get the mill on Saturday afternoon. We had the mill 100%.
If there's one consolation in this whole tragedy, it is the fact that we did finish on Saturday night. We could easily have left an hour's work to go and say, okay, we'll come and do it next time. But we pushed through, we got it all together, we tuned it, we got it lined up perfectly, and then as a last minute thought, I thought, let's just take a video. And we took this 1-minute video of the brakes applied, released, applied, released, just to prove that our 4th or our 5th big job was done to perfection. And all the way up, yeah? All the way up. And even where the rind is, I thought that that's set in lead, and I thought that would have melted, but that's fine. There's a piece missing there, which doesn't really worry me. It might have been missing before, I don't know. But the bedstone is actually cracked, but we can set that in a bed of concrete, cement or something like that, stabilize it, and then dress it flat again. This is called the rind, and this supports the whole weight of the runner stone and lifts and lowers it as you want to open it. Yes, okay, so it's got to come my way. My way? You can start turning. My way. Okay, let's turn. Okay, roll. My way.
Nu wordt de modesteen uitgevoerd als de holding.
Okay, swing. Swing. A little bit more. I think we can rest there. Well done, those guys.
Really?
that these steel, it's Corten steel, tubular sails can be used again. One can see the very complex angles that the holes have been punched through here to make each one of these sail bars at a slightly different angle. That's called weather. The tube itself we think is intact, and what we want to do today is to lift up one and put it over to one side and then put the other one next to it, just to see that they haven't in fact bent or anything like that. The only windmill south of the Sahara that makes flour, and there's no follow-up miller that's interested in coming on a regular basis, say maybe once a month, to come and mill. So generally these mills fall into disuse, and people lose their skill of milling. It's much easier with water milling, which I do in Rot River, but this is much more skillful. But also they need technical assistance because a miller isn't necessarily the mechanic sort of person.
Is it so important that this mill is restored?
Well, it is part of Cape Town's history. Everybody of any age can remember. I can remember it when I was at school here. It's just a landmark. The problem, of course, is money. And the building itself belongs to the Department of Public Works. We are not really hoping for a huge amount of money from them. It will be nice. But crowdfunding has started yesterday evening in Holland, and there are euros pouring in. They've set a budget of €500,000, an enormous amount of money. I haven't worked it out yet, but that is the Dutch quote, estimate or whatever to get it running again.
How long do you think it could take to restore it?
That is very difficult to say. And yes, 10 months to just do one of the stages of the restoration. So it's impossible to say. Depends how much money is collected, how much is done commercially. But even from those of us volunteers who are obviously going to have to...
That's the whole point, is that the mill burnt on Sunday. On Monday I was already here collecting the metal out of the mill. Instead of being sunk in despair, what we've tried to do is actually get going again straight away. So today is Wednesday, 3 days after the fire. As you can see, a lot of activity around the mill, cleaning up, rescuing the metalwork, because all that is left is the metalwork. The mill was made inside out of wood and out of metal. All the wood is gone. None of the wood was saved, but all the metal pieces, and the metal pieces date from 1796, so they're very important. And I was very worried that they would be carried away and sold for scrap. So we've got one of the things that survived was our little toilet block over there, and there's a room in there that was going to be our little museum. Thank goodness that has survived, because I took all the metal out of the mill as much as I could find on Monday and put it inside there for storage. Hopefully we can reuse that metal to reconstruct the mill, so there's something of the old mill back in the mill again. And the mill has stood for 225 years without a fire. There have been plenty of fires on the other side of the road, but mostly the fires have been in the southeast wind. Unfortunately, the wind was from the west, so the spark came across the M3 and into the thatch in the west. So the mill has been run by volunteers since 1995. Nobody has ever been paid a cent for working at this mill. So the public can be rest assured that when we get the funds running and start accumulating the funds, 100% of those funds will be used to the restoration of the mill. Nothing will be used by the people like myself to pay ourselves. We've always been volunteers, and we'll continue being volunteers for the love of the mill. Grind enough meal. I actually don't know, I haven't had a look, because there's an old barn down at the bottom of it. I don't know whether that's burnt or not, but there was another barn at the end of this field over here. The foundations are still there, where when the the reason that there were farmers here, that the city bowl wasn't the right place to grow the grapevines and to grow the wheat. They needed space and they needed lots of water. So they settled the farmers on the banks of the Lusbeek River. This farm, Welgelegen, the wheat would have been grown below the house, towards the river, and the grapevines. When you harvest the wheat, they would have brought it to the threshing floor over here. That's what this little round building is. They would have dried the wheat. They would have run horses round and round. There used to be a little thing I used to show the children, the horses running around on a threshing floor. And then they would have winnowed, they would have thrown it up in the air so that all the straw blew to the corner, and then bagged. They would have prepared this threshing floor, made the floor nice and hard with maybe anti, and then they would have put all the wheat in bags and stored it. You don't mill the wheat until you need it because it goes off. Meal goes rancid. You got to remember that when this mill is a very simple mill. So when you put the wheat through the stones, what you get out the bottom is called meal. It's everything. It's wheat germ, it's the bran, and it's the flour. So when you take that home, you've got the whole product. The wheat germ is what the commercial mills take out because it goes off. But that is the healthy part of that whole. Not at all. The job that we did on the break was something that had been outstanding since the millwrights came in 1995. Andy measured the brake wheel, and we found the brake wheel was oval. When the Dutch brought it, and I think it's the same thing, in 1935, the guy who came to fix the mill never thought the South Africans would actually mill. And I think the same thing happened in 1995. They got it all looking really nice, but they didn't. The building was still being fixed, so we never ran the mill properly while the millwrights were here. They'd gone already. Luckily, we had an old Dutch miller, Andre Bakker, teach three of us how to mill. But we didn't pick up on the troubles until later on. And they were inherent problems. They weren't anything that had happened since then. They were already existing in the mill. So one of the things was the vertical shaft had a wobble. The runner stone wobbled as well. The runner stone wasn't balanced. We took 20 kilograms of lead onto the runner stone to balance it. So that was one of the big jobs Andy helped me with.
Yes.
So the last thing was that the brake wheel that the Dutch brought wasn't completely round. So the first thing Andy and I did was to make that wheel completely round. And then Keith over here gave us little blocks of rubber wood that we glued all the way around the brake wheel. And then we ground the brake blocks. So on Saturday, when we applied the brake, instead of 30% of the brake taking, which it had always done, suddenly we had close to 100% of that brake taking. So it was in 100% working order. And by Sunday afternoon it had all gone.
Unbelievable misses, hey?
This house we're looking at over here is De Muurle. And that would have been, this farm was granted in 1680. That would have been the farmer would have built himself a little long cottage. And not any of these gables, you look at this gable over here, you can see it's modern brick. But if you look at that gable further down over there, you can see that is the same kind of brick as the mill's been built out of, sun-baked bricks. So that's a very old wall. This is a national monument, so it's going to be very interesting to see what the DPW do about it. The heritage architects were here on Monday already. So the first thing they're going to have to do is to protect what remains. They're going to, for winter, because that wall's going to collapse in winter. So let's just see what happens. Let's see what happens. Is that we South Africans will get the building running. We'll get the timber, the floors in. Africa straight away collect the money to get the building done. My big hope is that enough money will be collected. There were certain structures that remain. Our toilet block remained. The little caretaker's office down over there remained. And these two benches, that one of them, this is Joanna Marks. The money was left in her will to put a bench up in her memory over here. And that one over there is an old retired engineer. I can't think of his name's on there. Douglas was his name. These ashes are under the trees over there, under the rose bushes, and that bench has survived. Joanna's ashes were actually scattered around the mill.